Hello, this is Joan Gabriel. I'm a supervisor at Hennepin County within the Consumer-Directed Community Support Services area. That's the CDCS area. We received a referral from either your case manager or your MinChoices assessor letting us know that you are interested in CDCS as a service option for the waiver that you qualify for. Prior to enrolling straight to CDCS, the Department of Human Services requires that all lead agencies, and Hennepin County is a lead agency, needs to provide you with a training. The training is to provide you with enough information for you to determine if you should select a traditional waiver or a waiver with CDCS services. We hope that this training will provide you with that information to make an informed choice. The electronic training that we've provided to you today is made up of 4 sections. The first section is a link to the Department of Human Services, their CDCS participant training. If you have not already reviewed that, please do so immediately after you finish this module. Module 1, 2, and 3 from Hennepin County will focus on additional information not covered by the Department of Human Services. Module 1 will cover the next steps to enrollment. Module 2 will cover the CDCS plan and how to complete one. And Module 3 will cover how to complete the additional documents that are required if you so choose CDCS as an option. Quite a bit has happened since your assessor or case manager made the referral to us for CDCS. We're required to complete a file clearance to make sure that you meet all the criteria for CDCS. We take that information and we add it to your record. At that point, we send out this training to you. Now, when we do a file clearance, we're checking a number of items. To give you a better idea of what we look at, we're checking to verify that you have medical assistance and that it's open. We're verifying that you have had a MinChoices assessment and it found that you are eligible for a home and community-based waiver, or that you're currently receiving waivered services through a traditional service. We also confirm that you are not on the Minnesota Restricted Recipient Program. That program is authorized by federal regulations and was developed to improve safety and quality of care, as well as reduce costs for Minnesota healthcare program recipients who have misused or abused services. As you receive this training module from Hennepin County, you are not on that list. Once we complete the file clearance, we will send you an email including the training modules. You've also received a packet either in the mail or in an email from Hennepin County with the CDCS plan and required documents and resources. We're calling this the CDCS Toolbox. Also within your packet or email, you've received your personalized CDCS Next Steps checklist, and that includes your specific personal information needed to complete the CDCS plan and documents. Please be sure to complete the DHS training and the 3 learning modules from Hennepin County to ensure that CDCS is right for you if you so choose. The Toolbox. This is your CDCS Toolbox. We've sent it to you electronically. It's too much to go into any one particular booklet. You're going to need to save this page. It includes statute, administrative rule, policy, bulletins, all information related to CDCS that you need to have in order to be successful. Once you've completed the e-learning modules and the DHS training, we need you to go back to your toolbox and review the information there. It is your responsibility to know it, and it's our responsibility to provide it to you. The CDCS Next Steps Checklist. We sent it to you in your email along with the electronic training and your CDCS Toolbox. Please check that email and make sure that you have it. Now here's a little bit of a secret for you. Hennepin County has been working with CDCS for quite some time. We've been providing the training for equal length. And what we've heard from individuals who've completed the training and were interested in CDCS, they often were confused on, what do I do now that I've completed the training? How do I complete a plan? How do I complete these documents? Where do I send them? Nobody told them. So we've incorporated into this training, and we've provided you with the next steps checklist to help you move forward if you decide that CDCS is for you. I want to point out that every CDCS Next Steps checklist is a little different. No two are alike. They're like snowflakes. In this example, Ms. Lily Johnson was interested in CDCS. She received a MnChoices assessment. She found that she qualified for a DD waiver. Her assessor told her about CDCS. She was interested and wanted to learn more about it, so her assessor made a referral. We completed a file clearance and found that there was nothing to prevent Ms. Lily Johnson from accessing CDCS and taking the training. So the same individual who completed the file clearance filled out the top portion of the Next Steps CDCS checklist for Ms. Lily Johnson, just like they did for you. So on this example, you could see the individual's Lily Johnson. That's important. You need to know this. Some of you are guardians or parents or family members. And when you're filling out the documentation, you may think, do I put my name or do I put the individual's name? You always put the individual's name. You put the individual's name who is listed on your Next Steps checklist. Then we have the training date. And the training date is the date that we at Hennepin County sent you via email the electronic e-learning. That's the date we're using to prove that you have had the training. We've reported the waiver. Some of you may not realize what waiver you have, and this is the first time you're learning of it. It's important. Your assessor or case manager probably shared it with you, but sometimes we miss it. This confirms it for you, and you can use this information as you're completing your documentation. The PMI. This is a number that some of your forms are requiring. Everyone at Hennepin County who receives services has a PMI number that we use. Please keep a record of your PMI number and use it within the documentation as needed. We also have the anticipated daily rate. For Ms. Lily Johnson, after her MnChoices assessment was completed, the information was put within a system and we received the allocation from the Department of Human Services. In this case, Ms. Lily gets $115 a day. You may think, well, what's her annual allocation? Well, if you multiply $115 by 365, you will get the annual allocation. So 115 times 365 equals $41,975. That would be Ms. Lily's annual CDCS allocation. We also have here on this checklist the anticipated plan start date. Well, as you can see, it's April 30th that Ms. Lilly was sent to training, and we anticipate that it's going to take Ms. Lilly a little bit of time to collect all the information, develop a plan, and send it back to us. And as you'll learn throughout the course of the training, it takes us up to 30 days to review and approve plans. So we think a nice anticipated plan start date would be July 1st, 2020. Nothing here is written in ink. We always think of it as being in pencil, and it may change at any time. Please remain flexible, and we'll explain it as we go along the training a little bit more. Thank you. So we fill out the top part of your CDCS Next Steps checklist and also the bottom part, but you get the opportunity of filling out the middle piece. This is the part that we need you to complete as you go along, and once all these blocks are filled out, you have a pretty good idea the packet is complete and you could submit it in to whoever we identified in the third portion. On your next steps checklist, near the bottom, it lets you know where to send your plan and all of your related documentation. Only send it to that place. If you're working with a support planner, you need to let them know. They'll have no idea unless you tell them. And always, before you send it in, make copies. Before you make a copy, make sure you've signed and dated everywhere you need to, and make sure everything is in the packet. The documents that are listed on your CDCS Next Steps checklist include a number of the following. We'll need a completed, signed and dated CDCS CSP, so your plan. The one that we've sent you within your electronic CDCS Toolbox, you can use that. We love it when you do. It's the most updated form that we have. But we're very aware that some of you may not be able to use that document. You may have to develop your own or modify it. As long as it incorporates every piece of that form, you're able to do that, no problem. Number 2, we need a signed participation agreement. Now, if you use the CDCS CSP that we sent you, it includes a participation agreement. You don't need to do another one. If you want to, because you're nervous and it's redundant, but why not send it in? Fine. It's okay, but you don't need to if you've done it with the original CSP. We will need a signed and dated and completed health and safety plan. It is so important that you spend time filling out these forms appropriately. They're very important. Please don't rush through them. Please be as detailed as possible. We also have the alternative treatment form. If needed, you'll need to include it. One of my colleagues is going to be reviewing that in another e-learning module with you. The Tennyson notice, or the Tennyson warning notice. All governments, including Hennepin County, must give individuals notice when collecting private or confidential information from them. So please complete that form. The Notice of Privacy Practices form feels very redundant and very well may be, but if you would please also complete that form and provide it back to us. We've also provided you with a release of information. We need you to fill this out just to work with us every year. It's also important to know that we may need to contact a doctor. But an example might be we need ICD-10 codes to be updated, and we may need to reach out to, say, a doctor or a therapist to get those codes to prepare for your next MinChoices assessment. We would need a release of information to do so. Additionally, any time that you complete an alternative treatment form and send it in to us along with your plan, please complete a release of information so that we're able to contact that doctor or therapist to follow up on that form. It'll be very helpful, and it'll move things along quite quickly then. Please refer to your CDCS Next Steps checklist. You'll see that in the middle section, the first line is Financial Management Services, FMS. What that means is that you have to decide or choose an agency that you want to handle your finances. So the FMS service, they're there to provide you with help on financial tasks, billing, employer-related responsibilities. It's required that we have to select an FMS agency if you use CDCS or if you use the Consumer Support Grant. So look through the packet that we've sent you electronically. There should be 12 agencies there. We've also sent you information on questions that you may want to ask a representative at each agency, kind of interviewing them to find out who do you want to represent you, your financial needs. But you need to choose one. Now, some individuals have told me that this can be a little overwhelming. They don't know anything about finances. They don't know what to do. Please don't worry. Look at the list that we've provided you. Maybe talk to other people if you know anyone else who's using CDCS. Maybe just pull 2 or 3 off the page. Maybe you just like the name of the agency. Call them. Tell them that you've taken the CDCS training. You were told to reach out to different FMS agencies and find out which one is right for you. They're going to know how you feel. They're going to know how overwhelmed some people can feel about the situation. And they're going to let you know exactly what they do, what their business is, and how they can best meet your needs. Now, when you do it with one agency, you might want to call a few others and compare. Their rates can be a little bit different. And some agencies, they have a little bit different personality, just like everything else. So look over the packet we've sent you, make a few phone calls, talk to a few people, select your agency, and then submit it to us when you feel certain. Support planners. So by definition, a CDCS support planner is an individual selected by you and reimbursed through your CDCS budget to help you develop and implement your person-centered CDCS Community Support Plan, your CSP. The support planner can work independently, or they can be employed by an agency. The agency could be for-profit or it could be a not-for-profit. In order to be a support planner, one must become certified in the state of Minnesota. It's not difficult. You have to be 18. You have to complete a minimum of 6 hours of person-centered planning coursework within 3 years before taking the initial certification test, and then pass that test with at least 80% or higher. There are additional requirements for support planners and limitations defined within policy that we've included within your CDCS Toolbox. I do want to point out that at Hennepin, we provide you with training on how to complete your CSP. If at the end of all of this training you have questions, you're not going to be able to contact me. So we ask that you would review the training again and review the toolbox. And if you still can't get answers, you may want to contact a support planner and utilize them for your first year until you feel more comfortable with CDCS. We're going to start talking about the plan that you need to complete for CDCS. And although I've already told you about the CDCS Toolbox we've sent you, I want to point out a few items that are in your toolbox that are your go-to items. The first one is the CDCS Lead Agency Operations Manual. This manual includes a lot of information on CDCS. Believe it or not, it doesn't include everything. Hopefully it will one day. But it's one of the reasons why your CDCS Toolbox is so big. Some of you are going to be very excited to hear that it does include allowable expenditures and unallowable expenditures under CDCS. So if you're home thinking, gee, I wonder if this would be approvable under CDCS, you can look it up yourself. There you go. That's what CDCS is all about. Here are two other resources I want to share with you. The first is the CDCS Consumer Handbook. It is also put out by the Department of Human Services. I fondly refer to it as the Reader's Digest version of the Lead Agency Manual. And if you're not someone who likes to read a lot and you have a question, you may want to consult the handbook first. If you can't find it there, then go to the Lead Agency Manual. We've also provided the Hennepin County CDCS Guidelines. Now I need to let you know that guidelines is just guidelines. At Hennepin County, we've been doing CDCS for quite some time. You will hear the expression reasonable and cost efficient. It's within the policy. But reasonable and cost efficient for one person is very different from another. We always have to look at it from a taxpayer perspective. So we at Hennepin County came up with typical questions that we have received from individuals like yourselves and how we typically will approve it. But you need to understand they're just guidelines and every situation is different. So use it. If you find it helpful, that's great, but it's not written in stone. Writing your plan. Your CDCS CSP is different from your CSP that you completed with your MnChoices assessor. I don't know why we call it a CSP. You'd think we'd come up with different letters, but we didn't. Sorry that it can be confusing at times. However, when you are completing your CDCS CSP, it must include all the needs that were identified during your MnChoices assessment. And remember, everything in the MnChoices assessment was learned from you. So refer to the MnChoices Assessor's CSP that was completed and take all of the identified needs from there and make sure that you cover it within your CDCS CSP. If you're the individual who's receiving waivered services and considering going on CDCS, this may not make much sense to you, but if you're an individual who's the parent or the guardian or helping an individual write the plan, I need you to pay attention here. At Hennepin County, we believe in person-centered planning and person-centered thinking. And briefly, this is a process for selecting and organizing the services and supports that an individual with a disability will need to live in the community. Most important, it is the process that is directed by the person who receives the support, not the person who's writing the plan. So we need you to think about this as you move forward with writing this plan. Think about the individual receiving the services. Some ideas to think about at first is what helps them to have a better day? What parts of the day or what activities are difficult and why? What is needed to build on the strengths of the person to make better days happen and more often? If you want to know more about this, we've put it into your CDCS Toolbox, Person-Centered Planning Tools. please take a moment to review those tools with the individual that you're writing the plan for, and talk about what's important and talk about goals with that individual before you even start writing the plan. One more point before we get to the planning piece. I want you to think about your allocation. You might be thinking it's a lot of money, but over the course of a year, it's going to be pretty tight. So you're going to have to think about how it's going to be used and use it effectively. And remember, you have to meet the needs that were identified when you met the Min Choices assessor that was put in the original CSP. I also need you to look at your calendar for the next year. And I want you to identify areas of time where you might need some additional resources and services. And I want you to put that in your plan. A nice example would be if you have a school-age child who is receiving services and you're writing the plan, you're probably going to need additional services and support during winter and summer break. If you don't put it into the plan, it's not going to be there. Again, I need you to be successful. So I want you to think about these things now. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of Module 1 for e-learning for CDCS. If you choose to proceed with CDCS, please review the next 2 modules. They are designed to help you understand the CDCS CSP, the plan, and how to appropriately complete the plan. We also have another module to help you complete the related and required documents. At Hennepin, we want you to be successful in everything you do, to meet your goals, and to remain at home within the community. Thank you so much for joining me today. Best wishes always.